Hi, this is Luigi. We wanted to let you know that we had some minor alignment issues with this episode, but it's 95% good. So enjoy.
Hi, welcome to the F1 Time Portal, a Formula One history podcast by a couple of friends that love Formula One. I'm your host, Rosa.
And I'm your Revolution host, Luigi. And today we're rating drivers from 1968 for our special series of the Time Portal Championship. So let's go.
Hello?
Revolution.
Hello? Yes, Revolution.
Yes. I mean, I've got other songs better for motor racing, but I'm a Beatles fan, so I had to pick Revolution first, and I think this will be a two-parter, Rosa, and I'll reserve that other song for the second part.
Okay. And today we have Andrew with us. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, Rosa. Hi, Luigi. It's good to be back.
Welcome back.
Thanks. I think the last one I did was 1964, so
yes,
4 years later, I'm back into it.
Controversial.
Yes.
Controversial 1964,
correct.
if I recall correctly.
Yes.
Yes. Not as controversial this year, but you have a big event to navigate, don't you?
What event?
It shouldn't come as a surprise, but this is the year that Clark dies.
Oh, you mean that event?
Yes,
okay,
that
yeah.
Event.
It has an impact on
it does.
our ratings. It really does.
Yeah, some more than others.
Yeah. We'll come to that. Some of us know what's coming, so let's see. Shall we get started?
Yes, let's go.
Okay, so we're starting with race 1, the South African Grand Prix. And just as a reminder to listeners, a few things. We do these ratings independently of each other, so we don't align in advance, and some of them are surprises to each of us. At this stage, only Rosa knows who is winning the TP Championship. She's the one that does all the points. And lastly, we do very quick race recaps. If you want the full race review, listen to the race reviews episodes, which are much more interesting. These are interesting too, but they're more in-depth, so therefore I find them more interesting. That sound like a good precursor, everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it would be hard for you to fake the kind of rage that we saw in 1967 if you knew everyone's points, Luigi. So
yeah, that's right. I would have refused to participate. But she's talking about the TV episode of 67. So yeah. Okay, so race 1, the South African Grand Prix. So the short review, and the short reviews are getting longer, by the way, but that's okay. Yeah. So Clark was the fastest with his Lotus Ford Cosworth, with his teammate Hill alongside him, and then Stewart and the new Matra Ford Cosworth completing the front row. On the second row, there were the two Brabham repcos of Rindt and Brabham, while the third row featured Surtees and the Honda. So the race began with Stewart taking the lead from Clark, while Hill dropped back to 7th behind Rindt, Surtees, Brabham and Eamon in the Ferrari. On the second lap, Clark took the lead. Hill overtook Rindt on lap 13 to recover to 3rd place, while Eamon moved to 5th. The order remained stable as Hill chased and caught Stewart, and on lap 27 he moved into 2nd place. Stewart stayed with Hill until lap 43 when the Matra retired. This moved Rindt to 3rd once again, and the order then remained unchanged all the way to the finish, with Lotus scoring a dominant 1-2 finish with Rindt 3rd. Clark won his 25th and last championship Grand Prix, and actually broke Fangio's 10.5-year record of 24 victories. Clark would hold this record until his own countryman and friend Jackie Stewart broke the record in 1963, which then Alain Prost himself broke in 1987.
First of all, 1973, Jack Stewart.
Did I say 83?
No, you said 63, which is 5 years in the in the past. And why did you have to mention Alain Prost? Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Rosa did this
every opportunity. Any opportunity to mention Prost.
I did not have Alain Prost in there.
Yeah. You know why I did that? It's because Prost won. Spoilers, but people who are listening to this would know that Prost won 85 and 86 championship. 87, the McLaren fell away. But that was the year he broke the race win record. So that was the highlight of the year. So yeah, that's why I remember 87 as the year Prost got the record. But what's the order? Should we go
Andrew first?
Andrew first,
yeah.
Andrew, me second, and Rosa third?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Sure.
Andrew,
So,
three,
yeah, I think for obvious reasons, Jim Clark, I gave the 8 points to, dominated the race, clean sweep, pole, race win, fastest lap. Graham Hill was obviously best of the rest, despite the poor start, and I gave Jackie Stewart the 4 points. Even though he retired just after half race distance, he was sort of keeping up with Hill at the time. So 8 to Clark, 6 to Hill, and 4 to Stewart for me.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yes, a very logical start by Andrew. Yes.
Yeah.
No surprises there.
Okay. So I've gone a little bit AWOL on this one. So I've gone first Clark. Well, we'll start with third, second for first. Let's remember that for next time. So third, I've gone third, Clark, because I can. I gave Clark second for winning the race itself. And I gave Clark first. He died after claiming the wins record. So first is for claiming the wins record, and then second place is for winning the race. So I gave Clark all the points because he also made the ultimate sacrifice. Very logical. Very logical.
I have no words, but
Yeah, I know Andrew, and I can see him like internally, like just blowing up.
Well, I can see where you come from a little bit. Like he qualified a second ahead of anyone else, won the race easily. But anyway, I'm not sure about the logic overall.
Yeah,
all I can say is there's a lot of listeners that are totally on my side here, and I'm sure the age bracket of the people listening to this podcast are probably on my side. Just saying.
Okay, all I have to say is, Andrew's tips were actually very logical and came from a viewpoint of evidence, and whereas Luigi's is down the other end of the spectrum, which are all emotive kind of picks, which is fine. It's fine. But all I want to do at this point is say 1967 had actually more logic than that. But anyway, Hey,
I'm sure you gave Repco a couple of spots on the podium a couple of times. Just saying. I'm pretty sure.
I did. I absolutely did. But it's yeah. Anywho, my 3 I gave to Amon. I think he came from 8th to finish 4th. I thought Stewart. I didn't know whether I know you gave it to Stewart, Andrew, because he was. He got through half the race. I don't know where did he retire from when he was. Oh,
he was third. He was right on.
He was
Graham
third.
Hill's
tail,
I think.
Anyway, I thought Amon did well. Amon was in the Ferrari, wasn't he? He sort of did well coming from 8th to finish 4th in that race. I gave Hill my 6 points. Yeah, good chase and pass of Stewart. And he only finished 25 seconds behind Clark. And I gave Clark my 8 points, obviously. It was just classic Clark and a great performance by the Ford Cosworth.
Yeah, pretty big performance by the Lotus team considering the dominance of Repco, or Brabham Repco, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and that they were really struggling last year, so it was a good showing for them this race. So after race
Can I retort just on the Amon 4 points?
Oh no.
He did finish 2 laps down. So
yes, he did.
A long way off the pace, but
who actually did finish third again? Who finished third?
Jochen finished third, and he was only 30 seconds off the lead. But anyway, each to their own. We move on.
I like Andrew's facts. Maybe I should be careful.
Yeah, says the guy who used no facts to do his tips at all. Okay, so we have Clark in the lead on 34, Hill second on 12, and Stewart and Amon equal third on 4 points.
Okay. So up to race 2, the Spanish Grand Prix. So the quick review, Amon took pole. In the race, Rodriguez took the lead from the Frenchman, Jean-Pierre Beltoise, Amon and Holm. The top 3 remain unchanged in the early laps, but on lap 12, Beltoise took the lead in his Matra Ford. As he did so, the Frenchman's car began smoking, and on lap 16 he dropped out, leaving Eamon, who had taken over Rodriguez in the meantime, in the lead. So for the next 30 laps, Eamon was ahead while Rodriguez shadowed Eamon. Rodriguez lost control on lap 28 and crashed. This put Hill up into second place with Holm third and Surtees fourth. On lap 58, Eamon's fuel pump failed, and so Hill took the lead and went on to win from Holm and his promising countryman Brian Redmond in a Cooper BRM. It's a bit of an unusual race of what I would call the second-tier drivers dominating at the start, but we ended up with a Hill win and an unlucky Eamon. So over to you, Andrew, your third place and why?
So I went third, Denny Holm. So I had potentially could have won the race if he didn't lose second gear near the end. I had Graham Hill with the 6 points, drove through his grief of Jim Clark's death and inherited the win in the end. But even though he didn't win and he did retire, I gave the 8 points to Chris Amon because he had pole position driving away from the field until his mechanical issue.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to double check how many laps.
Yeah, how many laps was this race? 58 seems like he was near the end.
No, 80 lap race.
90 lap race, I think.
Okay. All right. So, that's 2/3 of the race, isn't it? So
he had it under control. And okay. I have no qualms about those picks, even though mine are different.
No, it's going to be hard. Like I say, I don't know why we have Andrew on here. It's going to be hard to criticise him. He does like a stack load of research.
He's too strong.
Yeah.
We've got to stop inviting him. So I've got third Clark. So this may sound unusual because he was no longer alive at this stage, but I'm giving him third place and for the rest of the season because in my view, he should have been in this season, and I want to give him a solid shot at taking the championship with a perennial third place for the rest of the season. And I wouldn't do this for anyone else other than Clark.
Not even Prost?
Prost would probably get second for the rest of the year. So can me supporting Clark, I don't know if you guys have done this at all. I suspect not because I don't see any picks there for this race.
No.
But that's it for the rest of the season. So I've only got 2 picks the rest of the season, but I'll still give Clark third every race because let's see if that's enough to get him over the line because I think he should have won this championship. So I gave Beltoise second place for, look, the old Luigi's back. Beltoise for being an early leader. So, you know what? Giving it to the man, giving it to the man, showing everyone what it's all about. And I gave the first place to Eamon. I thought he was a totally deserved winner. He led most of the race. He got pole position. And yes, it was like 53 out of 90 laps, but he had the race under control, and I'm disappointed he didn't win this.
So do you want to go first, Andrew, or do you want me to go first?
I'm still trying to work out where I'm going to start.
You've absolutely.
So you could go first.
So
admiration, is that where you were struggling?
I'll probably go from the other direction.
Yeah.
So, Louis, you've given your podium to 3 people who were not on the podium on the day.
Yeah, it does seem odd, doesn't it?
Not for you though.
Yeah, no. Like for Clark, like the Clark thing, I actually have some respect for that because he has, as much as I knew about Formula One, I learnt more about Clark as I've been doing this podcast, and I do have a lot of respect for what you're doing there in honor of him because I agree with you. He should 100% have been in this season, and I think he would have won this season in that Ford Cosworth. We saw what he did in that first race. So 100% on board, and I wish I'd thought of it as well. Really pissed Andrew off. But yeah, interesting. Beltoise, interesting. Amon, yeah, I guess 2/3 of the race. I'll give you that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I actually had Beltoise as an honourable mention.
Did you?
But I couldn't find any points for him.
Yeah, he finished 9 laps behind.
He did get the fastest lap and he was very fast early, but he also ruined Rodriguez's race, I think.
Okay. Well, I've actually given Amon my 4 points. He should have won, was leading, in the words of Wikipedia, he was leading by a mile. But yeah, his fuel pump issues, I've given him my 4 points. I've given Holm my second place on 6 points. Yeah, I said he would have overtaken Hill, but he lost that gear. So, and look, I gave Hill my 8 points. I thought the fact, and Andrew, you raised it, the fact that he drove through his grief. I think he did probably more than that. He probably pulled that team together after that tragedy. I can imagine everyone in the team, I don't even think Chapman attended this race. So he pretty much put the team on his back, and I've read lots of accounts of him just rallying the troops and getting them to focus on, what they needed to do as a team and stuff. So I think for me that's a huge load to take as a driver, and I gave him my number 1 spot for that.
Yeah, and that's a reasonable point, even though I didn't rate Hill for the win, even though he won it. Clark had been with that team his whole Formula One career.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he and Chapman were like best mates. Like they had been through the thick and thin of that team. Yeah, and like I've read that Chapman just didn't code to the, like he was such in a depressive state after the death of Clark, and I think Hill did a lot to sort of pull him out of that.
Just not obviously the emotion of it is pretty high, but bringing some levity back to it, Rosa. The fact that Hill was nearly 40 years old, I think, you have got history of favouring the older drivers.
I do have history.
It's probably a bit
Is he the oldest dude on the grid at this point in time?
He might be.
Anyway, I think there's probably some bias there. I'll see how we go.
Brabham wasn't young. Brabham was not young either, though.
That's true. Yeah, that's
we'll see
a
how
good
the
point.
votes for the rest of the season goes.
That's a good point, Andrew, because I haven't given Hill a lot of due respect in his younger years, but as he's getting older, I seem to have. Okay, so after 2 races, Clark is still in the lead on 38. Hill is second on 24, and Amon is third on. Hill is second on 26, and Amon is third on 24.
It's concerning me that Hill's only 12 points behind Clark. So I don't think my strategy is going to work. I don't think Clark's going to win this based on this stat.
I think Hill goes through a bit of a dry spell though. So
he does, yes.
Yeah, and that's where Clark can catch up a little bit.
Pull away again.
Okay, so we're up to the infamous Monaco Grand Prix. Technically a race Clark never won, so therefore, so him getting third here is probably, Anyway, the short race review. Ferrari did not attend the race amid reports that the team was not happy with the safety standards at the circuit, which is interesting. Hill and Oliver's Lotus featured the first hint of aerodynamic attempts with front and rear wings, and Matra International team boss replaces Stewart, who was injured with a wrist issue, with F1 debutant Johnny Servoz Gavin. Qualifying resulted in pole position by 0.6 seconds for Hill, with an impressive debut by the Frenchman Johnny Servoz Gavin in the Matra alongside him. At the start, Servoz Gavin took the lead, so he was really having a good debut, but after 3 laps he suffered a drive shaft failure and crashed. So this left Hill in the lead, and there he stayed for the rest of the afternoon. There are lots of retirements following, resulting in only 5 cars left by the end of lap 16. So pretty high retirement rate. And remember, this is a race that Monaco always limits the number of drivers, which is silly. We talk about that in the race review. As a result, the excitement was limited, although third-placed Holman and McLaren stopped mid-race to have a drive shaft replaced and dropped to 5th, leaving Bianchi in the Cooper to finish 3rd behind a dominant Hill, and Atwood in the BRM and Scarfiotti in the Cooper 4th. And I read the last 2 sentences out because they are boring, and that is what this race was. I wanted you, the listener, to briefly feel bored so that your emotions match the script's intent of a race attendee.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's not often I break the 4th wall there.
No, not often.
But there it was.
All right.
That's your fault, Monaco, just saying.
You want me to kick it off? So I gave 3rd to Servoz Gavin. I don't usually give points to someone who only lasts 3 laps of an 80-lap race, but he did. He was on fire earlier in the race, and he was second on the grid. So And in the absence of, through the boredom of anyone else, stepping up to the plate, I think I'll give him the 4 points. Atwood finished second, only 2 seconds behind the race leader, and he got the fastest lap. So that's a pretty good drive. So 6 points there. And Graham Hill looks like he made the race pretty boring. So give him the 8 points, and he controlled the race and won pretty easily. So
interesting. And Atwood, that was his only points for the whole year. So
wow.
This was a race of when the cat's away, the mice will play, and that's what it was from second down, pretty much.
No,
so,
it does feel like we're talking about the B drivers, aren't we? A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Clark's not there.
No,
so, yeah.
Clark's not there. Andrew, I'm very surprised that you've fallen into the trap of giving someone who only raced 3 laps any points. But I take your point. It was boring, and that's. Oh, at least you put him in third.
I think if you look at the results, you had Graham Hill 1, Atwood was 2 seconds behind, third place was 4 laps behind. So, and there was only 5 finishes.
At least he did something exciting, didn't he? He was
5 finishes, and the other retirements. 16 laps was the longest. So between laps 16 and 80, no one retired, and there was only 5 cars running around. So yeah, you're probably right. It would have been. And we always say Monaco races are boring, but at least there's more than 5 cars generally running around the track.
Yeah, exactly.
And for those of you, as a reminder, we're recording this in, September 2024. And in the 2024 Monaco race, it was a new F1 record was set where the top 10 drivers that started finished in those same top 10 positions.
Yeah, and that's
never happened before.
No, there were no stops. It was just very boring. Good result, though.
That's right, because they had the red flag at the start.
That's right. Everyone stopped on the red flag. I reckon they should make it a rule. Have they changed that rule now that you're not allowed to change your tyres on a red flag? I reckon they should change that rule because it totally killed that race, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. So if Andrew's giving Sir Vosgavin third for what he did, then I'm going to go the other way around. It means I can give Sir Vosgavin ultimate first, which is exactly what I did. So I felt like he had a real chance to win the race if he didn't have that drive shaft failure. And this is his debut. So, I mean, how awesome is that on this very tough track? So he got my first points. So now I'll go back in normal order. Third, I had Clark, as promised. He's got third place the rest of the season. And I put Hill in second place, and the only comment I had was, yeah, he won.
Gosh.
So at least I'm not writing what I normally write, solid, stable drive or something like that.
Like you're very underwhelmed with his win there, Luigi.
I really was, yeah. He walked it in the terms of soccer, and using a soccer term.
Okay.
Over to you,
yeah, over to me. I've given Holm my third place with 4 points. He qualified 10th and he finished 5th. All right, I do take your point that he finished last in the race.
You don't want to. How many laps down do you reckon he finished?
And I reckon he was about 6 laps
7 laps down.
7, yes. Okay, but he finished the race. That is saying something.
I expect he probably had some mechanical issues to be that
probably, yes, exactly. I actually gave my second place to Bianchi. He qualified 14th and he finished 3rd. And did you know that Jules Bianchi is his grandnephew?
That's amazing.
So thought that was interesting. I just thought I'd put him in there to mention that little point. Anyway, he finished 3rd. So you're going to tell me, Andrew, he was like 2 laps off the winner?
I know, he was 4 laps, but that's fine. I know that aspect doesn't really bother you, Rose.
No, it doesn't really come into my considerations. And I gave Hill my first place.
The old bloke.
Yeah,
yeah.
The elder statesman. I think this is part of his Mr. Monaco title, isn't it? This is his 4th win at Monaco. And I think he did it in emphatic style. So there you go. That's mine.
I think it's very funny to see our 3 comments about Hill winning. So, I mean, it shows our emotional status. Like Andrew's seemingly controlled the race. Mine is, yeah, he won. And then yours is Mr. Monaco pole win in emphatic style. And I'm proud of you for not mentioning that Jules Bianchi is the godfather of Charles Leclerc.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
So I'm surprised you didn't make that comment. I knew you knew that.
Yeah, I 100% knew that. Yeah.
So
no, I didn't.
I'm surprised you didn't go.
I'm not that gratuitous at mentioning my favourite driver every single opportunity I get, Luigi. Not like some people I know. Okay, so
I still find it interesting how you rate drivers. That Danny Holm finished 7 laps behind, and the guy that finished 2 seconds behind didn't get a mention.
Atwood.
Yeah.
it's
good call out.
I think Danny Holm was probably reasonably old at that stage as well. So.
Hey, all I can keep thinking is, can you get into, like, we are a little bit beyond 40 years old here, but could you at the age of 40 get in a car and race it around the streets of a tiny municipality? I don't think so.
No.
Shout out.
And also mentioning that the person that Rosa also shunned for Holm got the fastest lap as well. Although I didn't also put Atwood in mine, but I didn't have much.
At least Holm finished the race.
Well, so did Atwood. Atwood finished second. Oh, you're talking about
Service, Gavin.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Moving on. Luigi, you're going to be very disappointed. Hill is in the lead now on 48 points after his Monaco triumph. Clark is in second on 42 points. Ooh, and Amon is third on 24 points.
Okay. So up to race 4, the Belgium Grand Prix. So the Lotus appeared with wings at Monaco, as did various teams. So we're starting to see the advent of the wing era. Stewart was back in action for Ken Tyrrell's Matra International team, and Eamon was the fastest in practice, with Stewart and Ix alongside him on the front row. At the start, Eamon took the lead, with Ix, Surtees and Holm chasing him. By the end of the second lap, Surtees had taken the lead, and there were lots of mechanical retirements to follow, including Eamon, and then Surtees disappeared as well with suspension issues. So this left Holm in the lead, but he was quickly overtaken by Stewart, and the two diced until Holm slowed with drive shaft problems. This left, don't forget Holm is, this is 68, right?
Yes.
Holm is the defending champion in this.
Yes, but he's changed teams. He's in a McLaren now.
Yeah, that's right. So this left Stewart half a minute clear of McLaren, but on the penultimate lap, the Matra Ford driver ran out of fuel and dropped behind McLaren, Rodriguez and Ix. So this was McLaren's team's first ever F1 victory and Bruce McLaren's first championship Grand Prix victory since the 1962 Monaco race. Bruce also became the third driver to win a car in a car manufactured by his own team, Jack Brabham having done it in 66 and Dan Gurney in 67 at Spa. So here we are, everyone. For those of you that are McLaren fans, and I'm a McLaren fan, this is where the McLaren legacy started.
Hey, can I ask a question? Is that the last time that a driver wins a race in his own team?
I think it might be, because Surtees didn't win any races in his car. Definitely not Hill. And then the world changed.
Did Stewart have his own team?
No.
Yeah, but he was an old dude.
Oh, that was later
he wasn't
on.
racing.
Yeah.
He wasn't racing.
No.
Yeah.
No, he had Barrichello driving for him and people like that.
So that's the last time that ever happened.
I think so. I don't think it's ever going to happen again.
No.
I can't see a young person with money.
Max might.
$1 billion. Oh, you never know.
It depends whether, Lance Stroll maybe. They could rename it the Stroll.
Oh my God, Andrew, you've just
Formula
waved a
1
massive red flag.
Yeah, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me if Lawrence Stroll handed the business to Lance just before the championship decided. So Lance,
and then they rename it the Stroll Formula 1 team.
Yeah, just before the final.
God, we all have to rally around Luigi if that happens.
I will struggle with that. Yeah. Luckily, money won't allow it, I'm sure of it. Anyway, over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, well, look, I found this pretty tough to score points on this one, so I'm sure the results will be controversial. So I think a lot of the fast guys retired early in the race. So again, it was a 28-lap race, but I've given the main points to the guys that retired early, but I've given 4 points to McLaren because he obviously did run the race, but there was a few other options there, Denny Holm or Jackie Stewart, could have given points to. And then I shared the first place between Chris Amon and John Surtees, 7 points each, because they were well in front and they were dominating the race at the time, but they both retired. So, a little bit tough to divvy the points out, but
yeah. That is
I went with the
unusual.
guys that I think were the quickest on the day.
Right. I do remember that you do not like celebrating mediocrity. That's one of your...
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
And you know what? You're spot on, and your reflection of giving McLaren third. We've said this before. McLaren's a really good driver, but he wasn't a number one driver. He wasn't the sort of driver. He got a lot of wins sort of like this, unfortunately. So it's not taking anything away from McLaren and his success, but I understand your dilemma and especially with my picks, because I had Clark in third as promised.
You only had two opportunities there.
I've only got 2 opportunities, like you said. So I struggled. With so many drivers, like Andrew explained, that should have won, that didn't win. I didn't have much room. So I put Stewart as second. And I felt like it was a race he should have won, but he was the next tier after Amon and Surtees, like Andrew said. But I actually did give McLaren first in this instance because I felt while he was lucky to win this race, it was still a special feat. And unless there are extremely unusual circumstances, and I think to your point, Rosa, I'm confident this will never happen again. So I wanted to give a bit of a call out to it.
Interesting. I'm going to go from first place with mine. So I gave...
Yeah, I see why.
I gave my first place to Stewart. I think he should have won, but he ran out of petrol on lap 27 is what I've got here. Hang on, where are we here? How many laps is this?
It's a 28-lap race.
Oh, well, there you go. All right. Well, yeah, I don't know. Why didn't you give more points to Stewart, Andrew? Like you said you could have, but, I mean, he retired on lap 27 from something that wasn't his fault in the lead.
Well, yeah, I always have an interesting one about the running out of fuel, because if you run out of fuel, does it mean you've just driven, over and above the limit of the car? And what if you had saved fuel? Where would you have been? So,
yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's hard to... And as I said, it was a hard race to rate. And he was probably the next best.
More lifting and coasting he should have done instead of pushing.
Correct.
I don't think he would have ignored the fuel gauge. I do think that you're tough to not put him in there, just saying.
Well, I'm a hard taskmaster.
He is very hard. That's true. You dig deep to find some emotion with that, Andrew. Okay, so I gave, so I thought, I mean, I've sort of shouted, I've given him my first place. I've given second place to McLaren, pretty similar to Andrew, and although you've given him first place, 6th to first, but he inherited it from Stewart. And yeah, we say this during our race reviews, Luigi. He's a solid driver. He's very meticulous with his driving, but he doesn't do anything spectacular. He's not like we don't go, oh, wow, that was an amazing drive by McLaren. So I've given him second. And third, I've given it to Bianchi. Only because
this will be interesting.
He came from 12th to 6th.
Okay. Yeah, how many laps down was he? I'm just looking.
Yeah, I already looked. He's 2 laps down.
2 laps down.
You've skipped so many drivers that were dominating in the lead. Why?
Well, because do I have to say the actual reason? Because he's a distant relative of Charles Leclerc. No, only kidding.
Yeah, that's the real reason.
I don't know. Like 12th to 6th is pretty good effort. Like that's and that's not because of, well, is it mainly because of retirements? I think I did look. He actually did pass some drivers, and he.
Well, I think the two that I've gave 7 points to both retired, obviously. Jackie Stewart was out of fuel, and even with Jackie Stewart out of fuel, he couldn't pass him. Anyway.
Yeah, but the two that, I mean, he finished sixth. So the two that you're talking about were in the lead. So they didn't affect Bianchi's actual performance in the race.
We're talking about rewarding mediocrity. You've given him 4 points in our championship, and he only got 1 in the actual championship.
Okay, and I just wanted to do a quick order on Rosa, and I wanted to check if there was some physicality to this, and I just looked up what El Bianchi looked like. His name's Lucien Bianchi.
Yes.
And he's not a looker, so there's no bias there.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
He looks
much.
a bit like Graham Hill, though. That's
Yeah, he does, actually. That's more a clean-cut Graham Hill, shorter hair.
So,
Anywho, moving on, if that's it all, we have Hill in the lead on 48, having not gained any points that race, but Clark has closed up a bit, Louis. He's now on 46.
Yeah.
And Amon is on 31 in third place.
He's doing not bad for that.
He's doing not bad for...
Not very competitive for the season, but for some reason he's getting our attention.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're up to the 5th race of the season, the Dutch Grand Prix. So in qualifying, Chris Amon was fastest in his Ferrari. So Amon's up there in qualifying, I'm noticing.
Yes.
With Rintz, Brabham and Hill's Lotus sharing the front row. At race start, Rint took the lead, but he was in third place by the end of the first lap, behind Hill and Stewart. The rain intensified, and on lap 4, it was raining obviously, and on lap 4, Stewart moved into the lead. He quickly built up a big lead while Hill came under pressure from Beltoise, who had moved through the field. On lap 23, Beltoise went off and had to pit to clear his throttle of sand, and so he dropped back to 7th. I'm not sure about the sand thing. When he rejoined, that's right, the Dutch Grand Prix is near the ocean, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's the same location as what we have today in 24. So he dropped back to 7th. When he rejoined, he quickly moved up the field again and passed 4 drivers in quick succession to get to 3rd place. And on lap 50, he overtook Hill for 2nd place. So Stewart won his first Grand Prix in more than 2 years from Beltoise on that comeback drive to give Matra Chassis a 1-2 result, and Rodriguez was 3rd in the BRM. So over to you, Andrew, and why?
yeah, so I will say that I considered not giving a 3rd place.
Ooh.
But
What?
and I guess Graham Hill was maybe up there, but he did spin off a lot of times, so he didn't get any points for mine. I did give Rodriguez 3rd because he was the best of the rest, other than the first 2. And he did survive the conditions to come home 3rd in the race, I think. I gave Beltoise 2nd, very fast but erratic, had a couple of spins. And Jackie Stewart, bit of a masterclass out the front. I think there was suspicion that their tyres were quite a bit better than everyone else's, but yeah, he won by a minute and a half. So yeah, happy to give him
Was he on a
the 8
different
points.
manufacturer's tyres? Because I think this era we've got a few manufacturers on the grid, don't we? I think we've got Goodyear,
I read somewhere that the wet weather tyres that he had, and it was not just this race, a few others later in the year, were much superior to the others. But at the end of the day, he still won easily, didn't make any mistakes. So
Yeah. At the end of the day, you still got to drive the car well. Tyres aren't going to win it for you.
Yeah, and I'm a bit embarrassed with one of my picks. I don't know why I picked it, and I really regret it now, especially because of how the championship was so close. So I had Clark in 3rd, as promised.
I love how he keeps saying that.
yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And he wasn't embarrassed about that one, obviously.
No, that's not the embarrassing one.
You know it, yeah. So I had Stewart in 1st because just a rain demonstration. Okay, whether there were tyres of benefit, he still did a rain demonstration to everyone else on how to drive in the rain. Always classy. And I don't know why I put Hill in 2nd. I really don't
Luigi.
know. I'm looking at the results. He even came 9th and 9 laps behind. He wasn't even up there.
No.
And I'm being reminded of this awesome comeback drive by Beltoise. And geez, he should have got second at least. So I really regret putting Hill second. You'd have to have a go at him.
Louis, in a TP first, and how many years have we been going on this TP? 18 years. This is our 18th year. I will give you dispensation to change that tip now while we are recording.
Oh, really?
Because that is a travesty.
I know. I feel really bad. I don't know what I was thinking.
I'm just looking at your review and I'm reading that Beltoise passed Hill after being 20 seconds down. Then Hill spun out on lap 61 and he went into a fence. And then he spun out again on lap 81. That's why he finished 9 laps down.
Yeah, there's no logic. I must have just been in a brain phase. I'm changing that to Beltoise right now.
All right. Well, if you change it, I reckon the way that I've got my formulas, the only thing that might not work is the order. So I'm going to have to just keep an eye on. But I don't think Beltoise will come into the. Are you changing it or am I changing it?
Yeah. Okay. You change it then.
I'll change it.
Yeah. So Beltoise should have been second for me. I think I must have been thinking Beltoise, but Beltoise did come second. That's the funny thing.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay. So I reckon that will work. Well, I, funnily enough, and much to Andrew's confusion, have gone exactly the same order as Andrew. But my reasons are a little bit different. I mean, Rodriguez came from 11th to take third, and he had that was a magnificent drive. I don't. When you say best of the rest, I mean, that was a pretty good drive. And Beltoise 16th to second. And Stuart he loves racing in the wet. I think we've seen him, show up a few people in the wet. So I gave him first for that.
Yep. Good picks.
All right. So we've got Stuart on 24. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Race 5 total. We've got Hill on 48, having gained no points. I think that's correct. Oh, yeah. See, my order's a bit weird. So Clark is in the lead on 50 points. Hill is second on 48 points and Stewart is third on 42 points.
Pretty tight now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. And we've leveraged the you being gentle.
I just needed to correct that travesty. That was just...
Yeah.
And, and I'd probably not do it for any other driver other than Clark.
Yeah,
so don't make that mistake with Prost. It's not happening.
Yeah. You just have Prost 1, 2, 3 every race that he's in, so it's okay. It's easy. So we're up to we're going to stop at the end of this race, I think, because this is a bit of a long one, which is a good fun long one. So this is the French Grand Prix, the 6th race of the season. So the new experimental research and development Honda RA302, there's a bit of a legend brand, that car, the RA302, with the air-cooled V8 engine was on debut. Surtees tested it and declined to race it, as he felt it was not suitable for racing. So the drive was given to Joe Schlesser. So that comes with some not-so-positive news. Qualifying saw Rindt set the fastest time in his Brabham, with Stewart's Matra Ford and Ickx's Ferrari sharing the front row of the grid. Championship leader Hill was 9th. Ickx was on full wets and in the lead at the end of the first lap. Stewart and Rindt were battling over second place with Surtees in 4th. On the third lap, Schlesser lost control of the R&D Honda, so he had a different Honda to Surtees, and crashed and caught fire. The full fuel tank and magnesium chassis burned so intensely that nothing could be done to save Schlesser. So we talk about that more in the race review, but it's very sad. And as usual, in the era of Formula One, the race went on anyway. We found out the only reasons they stopped races is if the racetrack is physically broken apart or some natural disaster happens during the race. So we talk about that too. But the race went on anyway, and Rindt suffered a puncture from wreckage at the scene of the crash and had to pit, which dropped him to the back of the field. Further back, Hill overtook Stewart for 4th place, but then retired with drive shaft failure. So Ickx went off on lap 19 and dropped behind Rodriguez and Surtees. There's a lot of action going on. And Surtees, but he caught and repassed both of them within 2 laps, and Ickx stayed ahead for the rest of the afternoon to score his first ever victory in only his 9th Grand Prix. So Surtees finished 2nd, although the Honda driver also sought to replace broken goggles, and 3rd place went to Stewart. So sad about Schlesser, and good on Surtees for standing his ground on that. So over to you, Andrew, and any comments you may want to make.
So I ended up going third place to Rodriguez. I felt like I think he was in second when he retired, and only about 6-7 laps from the end. So he arguably would have finished second. So third for him. Surtees I gave the 6 points to, who finished second despite having some vision issues and having to replace his goggles. And it looks like the masterclass for Jackie X, who won the race comfortably by nearly 2 minutes. So 8 points to him.
Okay, I've got no complaints. Rosa?
Well,
Paul Beltoise came second though.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't have any questions of Andrew.
Yeah. So I had Clark in third as promised. I put this is where it gets with the driver passing away. It's tough. It didn't leave me much room for much else because I put Schlesser in second for paying the ultimate price. And while I say it's a pity he didn't listen to Surtees, he may have not driven if he didn't take that car because Honda obviously wanted to test out their new car. So he gets second place for paying the ultimate price. And I actually gave X first. Great drive in extremely wet conditions. And while I do think this is amazing, he always had a reputation for being a wet weather driving specialist. But to be honest, from an overall perspective, I don't think he was the wet weather master that everyone made him out to be. It's just every now and then he won a race that was wet. So I'm not taking anything away from him as a driver. I just think he's overrated in that particular angle. But I'm giving him first because it's his first win and it was wet. So conditional first, admiration comment.
Well, I gave Surtees my 4 points for not driving a death trap and finishing second. He didn't finish second. Is this I'm on the wrong race? I'm on the wrong race. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong race. Beltoise didn't come second. Sorry. No, Surtees finished second. Yeah. Look, I gave X my second place. I thought Rint would have won it if he didn't get that puncture. Yeah.
It's interesting.
And I've got here that X also, I've said great recovery from a driver error. Did he spin out somewhere and did something? I don't know. This was a while ago that I did this. But look, he won. But I sort of thought Rint would have won it if he didn't get that puncture. So after 6 races.
So you gave Rint the 8 points.
I did. Yeah. No.
Okay. I don't have any information to say he was actually in the race, but
Well, when did he come? When did he have to retire in the race?
Well, lap 45
out of
60, I think.
Yes.
But he did go back to last place though when that issue happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, according to Andrew's rules, a good driver that's not mediocre would avoid carnage on the track. A bit like Stewart didn't see the fuel gauge. I mean, the fuel gauge probably was good, but he can't help the car ran out of fuel if the gauge didn't tell him, And I'm just saying that, Rint drove over that item.
So that's his fault.
Anyway, my information was that X was like a minute ahead after lap 40. So I'm not sure where.
But
Rint
he spun out,
anyway.
Didn't he? Didn't X?
Oh, that was earlier in the race, I think.
Oh, was it earlier? Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe Jochen Rindt was pretty young, wasn't he? So I can't really play that card.
No, I can't. Oh gosh. Buddy. Okay. Well, after 6 races, we have Clark in the lead on 54. Hill second on 48. Ooh, I wonder if that's enough because Hill comes back in the second half of the season, and Stewart is third on 42. So we've got the 3 big names. Even though we've been talking about some B drivers, we've got the 3 big names at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, it has been a pretty full-on season with those B drivers that are getting up there a lot. But they're not winning a lot of races. But X first win, he's a B driver that gets the first win, so it's good on him. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll leave it there and we'll come back for part 2.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.